I'm Cassidy Cash. Welcome to this week's episode of Did Shakespeare. In Elizabethan England, smells were rampant. There were pungent odors coming from all kinds of things. Bathing in general was viewed with superstition and fear because people weren't quite sure exactly what putting your entire body in a vat of water might do. This was a reasonable fear at the time, though, because the water they had available to them came from the Thames River, which was notoriously nasty well up into the present day. The water was just extremely gross in 16th century England. You couldn't drink from it, so much so that people drank ale more than they drank water because the water was so disgusting. So when Shakespeare's plays speak of strong smells and pungent odors, specifically fish odor and the smell of onions and all's well that ends well, along with sulfurous smell in Cymbeline, and Hamlet gives us the expression of stinking to high heaven because he uses the phrase smelling so rank it smells to heaven. Shakespeare was no stranger to bad odors, but when it comes to his personal hygiene and looking at the life of William Shakespeare, I wanted to find out whether men in general wore perfume, which is why this week we're asking the question, did Shakespeare wear cologne? Now, when it comes to Shakespeare and this episode specifically, we are taking a look at smells, odors, fragrances, perfumes, and cologne from the Elizabethan era. There are no less than 25 references to smells and perfume in William Shakespeare's plays. There are actually 76 references to the word smell and 25 to the word perfume. So for William Shakespeare and the Elizabethan era during which he was living, you can tell a lot about a person by their situation when you judged whether or not it smelled right. In William Shakespeare's play Antony and Cleopatra, Cleopatra's barge is described as smelling very fragrant, and the winds themselves are rich with smells as she goes by. The queen in Cymbeline reproaches the doctor for thinking she would not know how to make perfume by saying, "Hast thou not learned me how to make perfumes?" This reference to smells and being proficient with making them may have been more than just the Queen's indignation, however. According to several historians, and one article in particular by the History Girls writer Pauline Francis, that I will link to below this video, Queen Elizabeth inherited from her father Henry VIII a very strong sense of smell. Throughout her reign, she was very conscious of how things smelled. She wanted the rooms to be fragrant. She wanted her servants to be fragrant, even requiring them to chew on things like spearmint or other scented plants in order to guard their breath against bad smells. Queen Elizabeth herself is often shown in portraits wearing what's known as a pomander, which contained plants and oils designed to make a person smell better. She wanted the rooms that she was in to smell nice. She wanted the people she was around to smell nice. And this came not only from her own personal sense of smell, which seems to have been pretty heightened compared to the average person, but also from her experiences as a child, which probably would have put certain inclinations into her mind irrevocably. One such event being that when her father Henry VIII died, he was covered in a whole bunch of sores, and they filled the room that his dying body was in with things like rose water to try and mask the smell. So probably in a personal psychological way, I imagine Elizabeth probably had a lot of personal and irremovable associations when it came to smells. Not only was it important for people to smell nice and guard their own personal fragrance as they were interacting with other people, but there were also smells that were associated with specific professions. And you can see this come up in Shakespeare's plays as well. Hotspur calls attention to specific professions being associated with identifiable smells when in Act 1, Scene 3 of Henry IV, Part 1, he says he was perfumed like a milliner. Now, a milliner was someone who made hats, but the process of making hats involved taking material and coating it with various chemicals. A lot of times this was a form of corn, and the process produced a smell that was known as a milliner's fragrance or a milliner's smell. Whenever someone was making a hat, there was a fragrance that went along with it. King Lear points out that it was cats who gave Elizabethan England their perfume, much like a sheep would give wool for garments. King Lear in Act 3, Scene 4 says, "Thou owest the worm no silk, the beast no hide, the sheep no wool, the cat no perfume." Now, he's referencing the fact that all of these animals give a piece of themselves to a product that humans use. A beast produces leather from its hide, a sheep produces wool from its wool coating, and the cat produced perfume. Perfumers prepared aromatics from a lot of different substances, but one of the most popular ones was that from the civet cat. Now, the civet cat is arguably not actually a cat in the sense of it's not like a house cat. It's a wild animal. They are mostly from Africa, and the civet cat is a lot more like what you would think of as a skunk. It even has the black and white markings that you're familiar with on a skunk. It is capable of producing a very strong, pungent odor, which would form the foundation for producing perfumes, because you wanted something that was going to last. You wanted to spray it on and have it last a long time. Now, pure civet oil does not smell good at all. You wouldn't want to just cover yourself in it. It smells like the excretions of an animal. But you can take it and mix it with other aromatics like rose water or scented plants like lavender or thyme or other things that also have a smell. And the civet oil would make those nicer smells last a long time. So just like today where perfumers mix up a certain recipe and they create this perfume, well, that's what civet oil was used for during Shakespeare's lifetime. It was also used to treat things like fatigue or stomach sickness, and it was even thought to be given to pregnant women as a protection for the unborn baby. And of course, like so many things in Elizabethan England, it was also an aphrodisiac. So now that we know how it was made, where it came from, and why it was popular under Elizabeth I, I still had the question of whether or not William Shakespeare would have worn perfume himself. Was this something that men did? So I went looking and I found out that there is a precedence for this. Henry VIII was known to have worn perfumes, and then Cardinal Wolsey is also known to have worn pomanders, not only to make himself smell better, but also to ward off the plague. The various fragrances inside the pomander were thought to get rid of plague. Now, there is medicinal basis for that contention we'll have to go into in another episode, but it shows that men from 16th century England did, in fact, wear perfume. Which probably means, in all likelihood, William Shakespeare did too, even though I don't have any direct evidence for him in a specific way. It was popular for men of his status in Elizabethan England. Now, perfume was pretty expensive, so lower class people probably wouldn't be wearing this. Of course, the elite in England would have worn perfume, but yes, it was something that both men and women did in Elizabethan England and for the life of William Shakespeare. That's it for this week. I'm Cassidy Cash. I hope you learned something new about the Bard. If you enjoy learning about the history of William Shakespeare, please hit like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the little notification bell so YouTube sends you a notice when we launch a new episode. And we're here every Saturday with even more Shakespeare. I'm also the host of That Shakespeare Life, the podcast that takes you behind the curtain and into the life of William Shakespeare. We have new episodes of the podcast every Monday where we interview Shakespeare experts. We figure the best way to learn about William Shakespeare is from the people who know him best. I hope you'll join us there and check out our new streaming app available at cassidycash.com/experience. There's bonus interviews, more history episodes like this, documentaries, animated plays, and more. For just $5 a month, you can dive into the life of William Shakespeare and explore him across multiple platforms, absolutely commercial-free. Find all of that at cassidycash.com/experience and be back here next Saturday because I'll see you with more Shakespeare. Bye-bye.